Okay. You know what this is. Part two, part three will be me just reacting off Robert's full video on what'll be, what'll butt, whenever that comes out. This is pretty much lays down a picture of John Villa's debriefing. I'm gonna play you by my count 8 clips, I believe. Um, so I'm gonna play you clip one.
Is the most dangerous one, and is what the Pili talks about in his video, right? Which is, you know, debriefers. They're the worst type, cause they've been in the game, they held positions, they're in touch with somebody. Sometimes it's not even a Pili, right? They play it off like they know the Pili, and since they're given a position around other individuals that are wiggling, they come to learn things, right? Nevertheless, they sit down to pee. Yellow runs behind their back. They're cowards. They're just waiting for that moment, right? But they're the type that do more damage. I'll give you an example, right? With no names or nothing, because of the briefers. I guess it's 3 levels.
Basically, giving some insight on what could be lost and go over many people's heads. Levels of debriefing, levels of being able to roll it off the yard and not having a snitch. That I saw a lot. In my time on 4 yards was about like 3 years. I saw that um, quite a few times, and every single time, sometimes didn't know the person. 2 or 3 times I knew them, and every single time it was like, oh wow, um, you know, small conversation. The reasons were whatever the reasons were. Sometimes we knew, sometimes we didn't. Um, okay, clip.
But, you know, when you get caught with a Fierro, one is a big no no. You lose a Fierro from the house, you're gonna get disciplined. Point blank, there's no way around it. But certain individuals know they're in the position where they could wiggle out, right? And I'll tell you like this: in all the places I've been with Billy's, every cell is mandatory to have a Fierro each in the cell, right? And they straight tell you, you lose that Fierro, that's your career. It's that serious, right? So, anyways, but these individuals, they're out of yard, really just being followers in the sense of they hear and they make up this big belief on who they know. They brainwash, right? You gotta remember, those are strong words. I know now it's really spoken real open, but at least back then in the days, oh, I'm in touch with so and so. I'm in touch with so and so, and you have, for example,
This is something that I know. Um, and me being in my time in this pocket around the people that are in this space, I remember correctly, vividly, um, even in Tehachapi, and we couldn't get like a Fierro in Tehachapi. It just couldn't. That's why we used a blade. That was like the secondary option was a blade. So, but in high desert, um, I had a section briefly in D block, A section, and I had to be strapped. Had it with me the whole time until I got to C section. Um, Me and my celly had it. He had the block. Then we switched cellies. I took that one, and then I remember I told that story with, um, somebody rolled up in the yard. It might have had to have gone, and he was in my cell, but it worked out. I told that story already. So then I gave up the strap to probably one of the most uh, craziest removals I've ever seen. Okay. Clip number 3.
But to get caught with more than one fierro, to stay on the same yard and not get whacked one time, that would tell you alone he's was a snake, straight up. But here's the thing. Eventually Goon Squad gets tired, right? Even if you're helping them to whatever extent and they know what you're doing. Squad is up on game like we all are. So they end up snatching you up. You go to the shoe to Pelican Bay. And that's how you see individuals do literally 4 months.
Yeah, it's a little inside information there. I don't want to really get into that one. I just find it's interesting, but I don't. Um, the homie Robert says it for a reason. I'll leave it there. Clip 4, validated.
Get out of here. But once you're validated, there's no buts or ifs. You're gonna go through the debriefing program. And those are the ones that are most wanted. As you guys hear from the Billy's own mouth. I don't know if everyone gets the message from Sherm, but allow me to dissect it a little bit.
This is something we always knew. Now, again, my own experience on 4 yards was a homie that got validated on the yard because of a wheeler. And they tried to validate the other homie. But he was able to come back after about 5 months in a hole in the back in High Desert. He was able to go back. All right. But the other homie never came back. He was validated. And it's always been known what you have to do when you get validated.
Levels of debriefers. I guess it's 3 levels, somewhat like that. But the first one is they gotta tell on everything they done, who they've been around, the crimes they know, and they gotta verify it. Now, you tell me that's not snitching, but their mindset is soy el más chingón. They put salsa on that, and basically they're out to hurt. Try to pull people to trial and everything. And that's why Sherm went out his way to put that message out. When we're in the system, besides a cat that goes on the stand and testifies, literally shows his máscara and testifies against someone, the next individuals that are on top of the lista are the fools that go through the debriefing program. Why? Because even though they will never admit it, their debriefing causes chaos. Brings cases to individuals because they pinpoint where fierros are at, certain avenues. For example, let's just say I'm in Folsom. You've been there for many years, right? Playing the weenie part. And you know where the avenues is. You know where it's coming in. You know who's hitting. All of them individuals are going to get put on blast. And of course, they're going to get cases over it. They're straight rats.
Now, this is the one that's most interesting to me, paints a real picture of every time he says, "What I tell on eh?" Well, obviously you hear it. You heard this here. That was a debriefing, and you got to give up the whole kit and caboodle. And this is where I come with the what we were given. A lot of info through the text messaging with the source. If you guys can't figure out what that is, man, that's on you guys. For anybody asking, a lot of that, a lot of mumbo jumbo, a lot of pages in that debriefing, and this is co-signed by the homie. You guys know who he is, Campoleto Mouse. 3 names of 3 big homies. I'm not gonna say the other 2 for reasons. One, Weddle Sherm. In there, dude gave up a lot, bro. Gave up a lot. Gave up Meseros. Gave up a lot, dude. It was a bunch of shit. A bunch of through text messages. So it was always like, basically laying out what he had done, but there was no names. And like I've said already, us making the first video, him knowing, because he was told, saw a reaction, just killed it right then and there, bro. So, which I just said recently, we feel we should have held on to all of it and then came out, and we didn't get the tidbits. But how he said to CDCR that Weddle PCP gave him a yard, and he's already said multiple times how many yards he was on. You guys already know. I'm not going over that. So, but all the information was who had the blocks, who had the section, who was coming in with fucking who's coming in with Clavo. I said all that in my videos, but because I cannot attach names to them, I understand how it looks, and I understand how it looks on our side, but it is what it is, right? Let's go to clip 6.
When I say that is, IGI know facts, details, times, who's doing what, everything.
Everybody is telling. This is something I've said in my content. Mac reps, we had Mac reps on a 4-yard in High Desert D-yard, and one of those dudes rolled it up, right? I thought was weird on a 4-yard. I just thought it was weird. But listen, we were homies specifically. Homies would get slammed a lot, and we wouldn't even know. Somebody dropped the wheel. That's what we would hear. Somebody dropped the kite, and sometimes, maybe one time in that, some people got rolled up, and I think after a while, if you heard, because if you didn't need to know, you didn't need to know. That is true. You'd hear one of them locked it up, and there were some casualties of him locking it up. So, and again, I think kites were dropped on every car, blacks, whites, Hispanics, paisas. Dude, kites were dropped. So everybody was telling, I agree. All right, man. Let's get to the meat and potatoes.
This trust basically took him down, and because of the debriefer. I'm not gonna state no names, it don't matter, but that debriefer was so scared that he went in whining and crying. Oh, Weddle has my family's address, all this, he's gonna hurt my family, this and that, to the point that every avenue Weddle had got closed down. They put him on basically S status, where all his mail, including families, wasn't coming in because of the fear of this individual. Now, I hear the individual say, oh, I ain't telling nobody. Really? What did you try to do to Toto? Right? What did you try to do over there in Ventura to you know who? How many times Weddle got pulled out to court because of the words that came out your mouth? I mean, Again, my respects. This is just a reaction to what it is. There is steps, right? There's individuals that get tired, they pull out. There's individuals that to somewhat but are not in the know like that, but they still tell. But they don't have to go through that program. You see, the most high, you could say camaradas, the ones that are really in the known, that's who IGI puts through the program because they want every detail that that individual knows. If not, they ain't going nowhere. You know, and also,
Weddle butt. As you can see, I kind of said it in my first video. It kind of goes back to what I kind of saw in the debriefing. This fool told shut this gentleman down. Now Oxnard barely heard of this individual, which barely same area, but you know, if you do time, you know, sometimes you just don't know because you're not supposed to know, right? You know, I never went to a shoot term, so but you know, we all know people who did, man. So no big deal. A lot of people don't even brag about it. It was just a phase in their life. Never heard of him. Excuse me. Whispered of, knew of him. And believe it or not, did not know that this dude debriefed on him specifically until the parole hearing was put out. Sooner comes around with the comments. Some digging is done, and it's still vaguely because you got to look at the time span 20, 30 years ago, the age groups, you know, the neighborhoods in that whole area, the whole county, the whole what is considered the 805. So, but, you know, it is what it is, and then there it is. That's why. More in terms of seeing his wiggle room, how he could wreck, how he could do this. Gave it all up to Ken Caboodle, man. Shut him down. And if you want to go with the comments that was said, Sooner ain't tripping on this, caused Weddlebunt eventually to debrief himself. I don't believe he had a life term or was able to get out. A survivor of that time, it is what it is. You know, the ramifications of what Dubs did, bro, to this gentleman fucked it up. And who thought the Wiz and the other person in Ventura? Well, Genevieve ain't gonna answer that. And I'm leaning into why people don't like this dude, because you got to go back to the start of this YouTube yard. This is, I believe, if I could be wrong, the only fallen Southsider, an embarrassment, a PC, an SNY in this bubble, speaking high-powered, going through a whole chameleon of transforming into cell warrior at times, getting drunk, little by little exposing himself, attaching himself to Gunner. Here come the dudes from up north, and they expose him. And every few years he gets exposed even more, no pun intended. And I think we're at its full capacity. We've you're hearing it all now, and it just goes into like, if it's gonna matter, probably not. We've known it. Get more details. You're gonna learn more when the Weddle Bunt story comes out, when Robert tells it. And you know what? It's not gonna matter because the internet has a place for people like him. He's a disgraced snitch. We know this. He has a platform on YouTube, and it's not going to really affect him. I think he's already been embarrassed. That's why he carries himself the way he does, and why he is being really provoked by somebody that was on the yard with him. And then as between that and this, you know, man, yeah, he knows. He knows. We all know now. And you saw him respond way back to the Weddle Butt. And you saw how he treated him with so much respect, even when he snitched on him. Just why do you think he treats legends, as he says, he reveres them, right? He says and he treats the whole Rafla with respect. Now you can see it as a slight in the face, like ha ha ha, or you can see it as because he's knows what he did and he lives with that failure. But that experience of his has put him in a good situation economically on YouTube, and why a lot of people don't like him because of who he truly is, a snitch. And he's monetized himself and he's built a platform, and he is what we know he is, right? And how many times did old man Weddle B have to go to court because of this fucking dude? And Toto and the other guy in Ventura. Okay, here's the last clip.
To run scared for his life. Think about that. The things he was really doing on the yard that he was so scared for. Those are the debriefers. And after all that, can you really believe? Oh, I went into the debriefing program and I fooled IGI. I fooled everybody that was requesting to know. I trumped their information, made it through the program. Oh, but I didn't tell. That's why the homie went out his way to inform the neighborhood. Basically, be trucha of this cat. And don't allow him around your neighborhood because it's going to bring a backlash. But anyways, with this I'll let you go.
It took him 4 months to break. I always thought behind the scenes, me and Mouse, you guys know us Campoleta, would talk like you debriefed this year, all that time prior to 05, you only were in Folsom. That don't even make sense. If specifically for that time on 4 yards, you would like bounce around all the good yards. So it was always interesting. Unless, hey man, you go back to the earlier part of this video, maybe a theory on that, right? And I don't want to really dive into that. Robert didn't dive into it. I'm not going to go dive into it, but speculate what you will. Speculate what you will. I've always thought that was odd, but I always thought that was odd. We all have people that do time in 4 yards. And if you're active and you're on a 4 yard for that many years and you only go to like 3, what is it, New Folsom, barely on the Corcoran. At the time, he was good, so he did what he needed to do at the Tehachapi. Pellet came very briefly on the yard, so this motherfucker only did New Folsom time. Kept going in the hole for Fierros. And wasn't regulated. There was no repercussions. Or who knows? You come back on that bogus shit again, you're done. Who knows? But we know he debriefed. That's gonna wrap it up. This was more of a showcase on the source. Robert, he allowed me to do this in the way I do it. Other than that, I wouldn't have done it if he wouldn't have said so, just like the first time. There are some people on here that did time and they got their boogie on. In this space, I know for sure Robert did that, and after that, who I know, because it's I guess it's so important in this space, Mouse got his boogie on in there. Multiple trips to the shoe that were about something, not holding legs in a hole or getting caught with fierros and wine. And that is a guy who, de pegadas with legends, was part of the leadership. Again, goes into the reasons why a lot of people don't like this guy. To me, it's not so personal. It was an opportunity to get into a space. And I came in with my own lane, and it kind of worked out. Good energy around me. So it is what it is, but I'm always honest with you guys. In my time was really nothing, bro. Nothing special. 5 years ain't nothing compared to some of the people. And what I have to stand on is good standings. And a lot of other homies went in and out multiple terms, multiple shoes, eventually made it home and are living a good, normal life. That's just part of being solid. Part of what people don't like nowadays. Because the YouTube is so infested with civilians, PC sympathies, and a bunch of people who I truly watch and participate in comments that are fucking no good. European penitentiary system, basura outweighs the good. It is what it is. All right, I'm gone. Part 3 coming.